What's on your name?
Okay, we're going to start over. Thank you all for being here. Seriously, this is a phenomenal turnout. You have made my month. Do I need that?
Yeah, speak up.
Yeah, you do. All right, you need it. All right. Welcome. I'd like to introduce our speaker, Audy Perry. Audy Perry Jr. serves as Executive Director of the Heritage Farm Foundation, which operates West Virginia's first Smithsonian affiliate, the Heritage Farm Museum and Village in Huntington. Established by his parents, A. Michael and Henrietta Perry, the award-winning Heritage Farm strives to share Appalachia's proud, rugged past in ways that inspire and embolden the fire. He co-authored a book with his late father based on life at the farm entitled Faith, Family, Friends, and Farm, Stories of and from Heritage Farmers. Prior to his current role at Heritage Farm, Audy practiced law for over 18 years, advising clients on matters involving estate planning, trust, charitable giving, business succession planning, project financing, and real estate. He is now of counsel with the Dinsmore Law Firm. Audy is very active in the community and state. He is president of the Cabell County Convention and Visitors Bureau and on the board for the West Virginia Department of Tourism and St. Mary's Medical Center. Audy is also past president of the West Virginia Law Institute, West Virginia University College of Law Development Council, Marshall University Foundation, Huntington Regional Chamber of Commerce Board, West Virginia Baptist Convention Executive Committee, Communities and Schools of Cabell County, and a past president of the Greater Huntington Area State. Joyce.
Marcella.
Welcome, Audy. And if you're at home, you might want to turn your volume down. So welcome, Audy, and I'm going to turn it over to you. And welcome, everyone. This is a phenomenal turnout. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to join you today.
Follow Taylor. Thank you.
The Zoom people, listen.
Yeah, Zoom need to be. If you're on the Zoom, please, you might want to put your phone on mute so we don't hear all of the exciting things happening at your house while we're all here together. And we will have time for questions.
Scan your ID.
Okay, let's not.
From Heritage Farm. How many show of hands have been to Heritage Farm ever? Right? Okay. How many have been in the last 5 years? Excellent. Very good. And just a sampling of those who've been in the last 5 years. What did you attend? Was it for a meeting or for Christmas Village or? Yes.
Christmas night, and it was for the Cabell Hospital.
Oh, yes, when they did their employee appreciation event.
Thank you.
And then the bread.
Oh, fun. Very good. Oh, yes, with Robbery. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Took my grandson to kindergarten, and it was a fun Saturday
You
to
got a great
enjoy
program.
and go
Yeah.
and attend everything that was there.
My grandchildren, well, my oldest one has them with me. All right, well, very good. Yes, sir.
We're out of town guest to this.
Okay.
Your mom. Yeah.
Oh, now you got the golden stuff right there. Yeah. So mom sent her greetings. I told mom what we were doing today, and she said, "Oh, that probably lots of my friends." I'll give you a warm hug from mom, and hopefully when you come back in the spring, you can get one from her. She's doing good. I got her car licensed up for you get a 2-year sticker now, by the way, so that's nice. So you don't. And they reported that it had gone 3,000 miles since the last time. so we, between myself and my 2 sisters, we are her Ubers for most of the points. But we keep her car rolling just in case. So just a little background on the farm that you may already know, but just to kind of round out our story that we share time today. So that whole area where the farm exists, that was settled by 7 German dairy farming families back in the 1800s. In fact, if you're aware of the roads out there, after you pass the farm on Harvey Road and you wind up to the top and you turn left, you will be on German Ridge Road. That's because 5 of the dairy farms were up there and 2 were down in the valley where the farm is. The Schaefer Dairy in particular, some of you may notice when you park in the parking lot, there's a big barn with a black silo. That is the original Schaefer Dairy barn from the 1800s inside that beautiful, beautiful facility. And that is the reason Mom and Dad moved out there in 1973. They wanted my older sisters to have horses. At the time, they were living on the south side, and my sisters had horses, so they purchased the property. It was at that time it was 100 acres from the Schaefers. As you can imagine, by the 70s, local dairy farms were pretty much gone from the landscape, unfortunately, and the house had burned. And so they were just going to knock down the burned out shack and build a new farmhouse out there by the dairy barn. Well, when they went to remove the wallboard and the filth from that burned out shack, they discovered 200-year-old hand-hewn logs. There's a log cabin underneath that burned out shack. And they're like, well, who did this? And how come we never learned about them in school? Right? If your education was anything like mine, American history is they talk about the people who settled the East Coast, a few wars, a few presidents, Lewis and Clark, Gold Rush, boom, and all the cool people ended up in California. And rarely did we ever learn about the people in the middle, the people who stayed behind. And so when you don't tell the story, we're left to assume that we must have been the losers who couldn't hang with the cool people in the narrative that is given, which is entirely wrong. So Mom and Dad began researching, studying, interviewing Appalachia. We didn't do a very good job of telling our own story. The only story that really made it out of the mountains was Hatfield McCoy's, right? We'll talk about that a little bit later. But so Mom and Dad, their passion began in the finding of those logs. That began their passion for Appalachia. And when I'm trying to tell this story in a short way, I just say, and then like most passions, it got way out of hand after that. And so today, if you jump forward, there's now 1,000 acres, 30-some log buildings, and West Virginia's first Smithsonian affiliate with zip lines, mountain bike park, and hopefully by the end of this year, the nation's first indoor-outdoor snow park, right? So boom, passions get out of control. But let's rewind that. We'll end up with that narrative at the end, but let's rewind that to that log cabin. I hope when you come out to the farm or in the past when you arrive, you've had a chance to actually just walk over, put your hand on one of those logs. I invite you, one of the best places to do that is in that little log chapel, right? That log chapel is from 1850 in Lincoln County. Is anybody from Lincoln County here? So, our neighboring county to the east. Great story in and of itself. Any of you know Sarah Jane Wilson? So, yes, so Sarah Jane's dad, Willis Wilson, was a contractor, and his company had been hired to construct. Where 3 and 10 split there outside of West Hamlin? You go across the bridge to your right, where you go. So this little church was there. Now, when they museums, now Smithsonian affiliated museums, came from 14th Street West, which I really think is fun. The only time we ever had to go somewhere else, we would go to Washington Courthouse there out towards Dayton in Ohio. They had a big, especially for tractor engines and hit and miss engines. That was kind of not in our local scene. And then the other trip that I remember, I hope this doesn't make this PG-13, but the other thing, we had to go up and go to Intercourse, Pennsylvania. And yes, as some of you may remember back in the day, whenever you went somewhere, you had to go to AAA and ask for a trip ticket. And I, as a 16-year-old boy, sat next to my mother at the AAA over there on 6th Avenue when she said, "I'd like a map to Intercourse." So I was devastated. But anyway, that is the name of the town, I swear. But my dad and I drove up there for a huge auction from a farm in Amish country, and that's where we picked up those large, like barn looms, things that just did not survive here. If you think about it, why were they able to collect all of these things? Well, you can almost remember it. They did the same thing to our town, right? Nobody wanted to look old, antique in the 70s. Remember, we covered over our whole downtown with tin and metal because we were embarrassed. We didn't want to have those bricks that they had all the way back in the 20s, right? And people were doing the same thing. Grandma and grandpa would die, and even the log cabin that they lived in had been done, right? They covered it over. They wanted to look modern with your slat boards or your drywall. And so when grandma and grandpa would die, they would just throw the stuff over the hill. So the stuff that is now in those museums was all just junk. None of it looks like what you see today. And so part of the miracle is just the friends of mom and dad who knew how to bring it back to life. If anybody knows Sarah and Earl Bush, they refurbished almost all of that. Mom and dad wanted everything to work before it got to the museum. So part of the miracle was them just being able to collect all of these things. But then the other part of the miracle is the friends who surrounded them, who knew how to bring things back to life, whether it was a sewing machine or a washing machine, or my favorite example, the 1908 electric truck. You may remember seeing that in the transportation. Here we are, 100 and some years later, still dorking around with electric vehicles. You could have bought that the same year you could have got the Model T. They came out the exact same year, right? And one of my friends, some of you may know Joe Murphy, he has one of those, what are they called? The Tesla truck thing? And the Cybertruck. He has a Cybertruck. And he came out there and he said, "Oh my goodness, this 1908 electric truck works the exact same way. There's a motor for each wheel." Really deep. So it just took us a long time to get back to where we started. But I'll just make an aside there. It's a good example of genius is in the hollers, right? Because our economy has never been what it should be. A lot of people didn't get to earn a living at what God created them to do. And here's one of those stories. So Dad found two 1908 electric trucks in the CSX junkyard. And he then located them at remember the bus barn on the West End, right? And so he brought them out, and like he always did, he tried to get people to bring it back to life. He wanted to see it work before it got put away. That was part of the joy. I was asking that earlier, what brings you joy? He loves seeing things from the past. And so it sat for 6 months in what's now the parking lot, but back then it was just a field. And Dad knew some people, right? It was Toyota. Of course, where we are today with an engineering school. Nobody would touch 100-year-old wooden batteries. Don't know why. So he's kind of getting frustrated. But gentleman walks up to his door about 6 months after that. That goes to the door, and if I had a hat, I'd be holding it. And Yes, can I help you, sir? My name is Zane Parsons. My name is Zane Parsons. What are you planning to do with those electric trucks? And first, Dad was just thrilled that somebody knew what they were. And he said, well, I want somebody to bring them back to life. So they work before we put them into the museum. And he said, well, Mr. Perry, I'm your mailman. And I have been studying those electric trucks since the first day I saw them on my route. And I'm pretty good with electronics. Would you allow me to try? Scariest 10 miles per hour I've ever gone in my life. Yes, Zane, through that relationship, Zane's also the one who brought back that little amusement park that you see in the Progress Museum, and a number of other things. Just, again, a mechanical genius that had an opportunity to blossom there at the farm, which is a lot of fun. Stuff is nice, but people make the difference, right? And so that's part of the joy of the farm, is allowing people to plug in and do the things they love that maybe they didn't always get to do. Another great example is the Appalachian Model Railroad Society. They have been meeting out at the farm for 20-some years. That's why you see all those wonderful model train exhibits, because they come every week. And yes.
The 606 number, this interview, but I can't hear you from here. 606 number. Take your mute, you could.
All right, so rewind back. So they opened the museum, they opened their first museum in that dairy barn in 1996. And then primarily to help school children understand that somebody in their family was amazing, right?
Hi.
Again, we don't tell our story
It's
well enough.
923
And so to help a child understand that somebody in their family built their own home, grew their own food, made their own clothing, and were able to protect their family against everything that came against them, or else you and I wouldn't even be here. And we don't tell them that to shame them. We tell them that to inspire them, right? And if you look at what we face, it's ever been. Cool. Right? Cool. If you think today is the worst it's ever been, come out to the farm. Come out to the farm. We'll take away your running water. We'll take away your electricity. We'll make you plow the ground for everything you eat. We'll make you wear clothing that you make yourself. We'll see how bad you think it is today. Now, so what is it that we're talking about when we say the quote good old days? Is it how we live? It was brutal. It was brutal. The average life expectancy in 1850 was 35 years old. We'd all be dead. It was not great. We romanticize the past, but the people were great, right? When we say the good old days, that's what you're talking about. Your grandma, your grandpa, who you knew, worked for nothing to make what you have today possible. That's who we're talking about. But this blanket idea that somehow that we're the worst it's ever been is just a false narrative. You give me any statistic and compare it to some world, and you compare it to 1850. What do you want to talk about? Birth rates. So let's see. How many? Gosh. There's a really interesting book called Factfulness that I encourage you, if you think the world's going down in a toilet bowl, read the book Factfulness, and it'll remind you that, oh my, we're forgetting a lot of our history. Even politics, and I won't go there, but we think that it's the worst it's ever been. People, we used to shoot each other in the street as part of the debate. Now, we haven't gone that far yet, so I do say yeah, but anyway. So, don't give in to the narrative that it's worse. The people who came before us did not sacrifice their blood, sweat, and tears for nothing. Right? It is an amazing opportunity that we've been given. Don't let someone mind steal it from you. That was not going to work long term. So in the early 2000s, they expanded to what is now known as the village. So everything could be accessed from a one level concept with the museums of progress, transportation, the country store, the church, the blacksmith shop, the apple butter inn, all those came about. By the way, the Barn Retreat Center is now or that dairy barn is now a retreat center. You can eat, sleep, and meet about 40 people in there. It has full kitchen, 12 showers, 4 different restroom facilities. It's a lot of fun. It's a great place for a family reunion, church retreat. It's a lot of fun. The women's volleyball team uses it as their current kind of pre-year warm-up facility, so it's a lot of fun. Although those ladies, I'm not sure how they fit on 72-inch long bunk beds, but maybe that's part of their humbling before the season. I don't know the coach's angle there, but anyway. So then, so in 2006, the farm became a certified 501c3, a tax-exempt charitable education charity. And began for the first time open to the public on a regular basis. In 2015, unfortunately, Dad passed away of cancer, and that's when I left the practice of law. So I've now been out there 10 years. Next month, Dad passed away on February 25th, 2015. So I've been out there 10 years next month. My wife has always been their education director, overseeing tens of thousands of school children every year, and that's a blessing. I want to share with you a story in that regard. It happened shortly after Dad's passed, about 6 months after. So we're getting to 7 months. So this is September of 2015. So we're getting ready to do a school tour, and sometimes you just wake up in the middle of the night and you get a download, right? You're like, whoa, okay, what was that? So quit asking kids what they want to be when they grow up. Pretty good question. No, it's not. It's a terrible question, especially of an elementary kid. They have no idea what jobs there's going to be 15 years from now, and neither do any of us. The world changes so quickly. And here we are sticking them in a school so they'll become an X. X may not even exist by the time they graduate. Well, then what's a better question? A better question is, what problem do you want to solve? Because I can't guarantee you what kind of jobs there's going to be, but I can guarantee you there will be problems to solve. And if you think about it, problem solving is at the core of all commerce. Every time you spend $1 or receive $1, you're problem solving. Real or perceived. I'm hungry, I'm bored, I'm sleepy, I'm sick, right? Every time. So the basis of all commerce is problem solving. Well, guess what, Appalachia? That is great news, because that is your heritage. And so our school tours take them on a problem-solving tour to show how their ancestors figured it out, right? They were so sparsely populated. I use the example. So let's go back to that 1850s kitchen. And Progress Museum, if you've been there, you see it. So you see a man and a woman there, and they come over the mountains to live here. On a day like today, you would love a wool coat, right? So in 1850, if you wanted a wool coat, if you lived on the East Coast, what did you do to have a wool coat? You know, you waited for the boat to come from Europe, or you went to the farmer. You lived in a community. You went to the farmer, purchased a fleece, took it to the tailor, and had a coat made. But your ancestors, if they came over this mountain and they wanted that same wool coat, what did they have to do first? Sheep. Oh boy, thank you so much. Number one answer for the kids: kill the sheep. They somehow know that wool comes from sheep, but they're not quite sure about the process. So it's a little more draconian than yes, raise it. So if you came over these mountains, you had to raise the sheep, and then shear the wool, cart the wool, spin the wool, dye the wool, and all of their spare time make that wool coat. You know, and once we walk through that process, if you can't be proud of that heritage, there's really not much I can do for you. These people were amazing. They were problem solvers. Everything in that 1850s kitchen, they had to figure out how to do it themselves. They didn't live in a community where, you know, now eventually communities came about, and you were the blacksmith, and you were the physician, and you raised the crops, and, you know, and everybody worked together. But we were problem solvers. We are problem solvers, right? We just don't teach that way anymore. If your education was anything like, and I had a wonderful education. My teachers were fantastic. But the world is changing relevant to what we need to know. You know, now every fact in the world is on this thing. I don't necessarily need to remember dates anymore, right? Good thing, because I can't. But anyway, and maybe because of this. But anyway, problem solve. We need to problem solve and critically think and evaluate data and make things. Remember when we used to make things? Right? So all of our tours are based upon that. Back to that first day where I was supposed to ask, what problem do you want to solve? So I wake up, I look at the agenda for the day, and the school coming is 4th grade from Dunlow. Anybody been to Dunlow? Yeah. And this is 2015, so Dunlow's doing better now because of the Hatfield-McCoy trails, and they've opened up Cowboy Lingo, and if anybody's never been through the Dingus Tunnel, they've redone it, super cool. But in 2015, this little school is the only public building in the whole town. There was no coal, there's no trucks, there wasn't even a gas station in Dunlow. And I'm like, oh no, this is gonna be a total flop. Well, if Hope hadn't died in Dunlow, then not a single one of us have an excuse. So I go through this tour that I'd revamped to all be about problem solving, and we get to the end, and I look at this, about 25 4th graders from Dunlow. I say, so, what problem do you want to solve? This little girl's hand goes right up, which I've since learned, I'm still doing the same tour, I've since learned is very rare, right? We are so afraid of each other. We are so afraid of each other that if I say what I'm thinking, somebody's gonna laugh at me, or I'm gonna be wrong, right? And plus, we just don't talk this way, right? People asking, what problem do you want to solve? That sounds braggy or, you know, whatever. Anyway, but this little girl's hand goes right up. And I said, yes, ma'am. What problem do you want to solve? 4th grade girl from Dunlow Elementary says, I want to figure out how to make my grandmother's hands to stop shaking. Whoa! And so the teacher looks at me, and both of our eyes are like this big. I was thinking Save the Whales or something, you know, and I said, her name's Jennifer. What's your name, young lady, Jennifer? I said, Jennifer, that is amazing, right? Do you see how now the entire education system now works for Jennifer? Jennifer now knows what she needs out of every single class that she is ever going to take. I've tried to find Jennifer. I hope she finds me someday, honestly, because she's now graduated, right? So not to be done with Jennifer, because this gets better. So her teacher and I are pouring into her like, that's great. And Jennifer says, yeah. And she points to the rest of the kids in the class. And she said, and you got to tell Grandma I'm coming. Marketing, PR, this girl's got it all. And you know the best part about it is that because she was bold enough, the other kids started coming up with ideas. And it's very rare until someone lets it out that the others will share, right? That's power. Power. And so anyway, so the tour's over. We're walking out. This is in the Progress Museum, and we're walking out the door. And the last two people are this little girl and her teacher. And so I bend down and I say, Jennifer, I am really looking forward to the world you're going to create. And she said, thank you, Mr. Perry. What problem are you going to solve? Hey, I can dish this out. I'm not, hey, I've been on this for 6 hours. But out of my mouth came, I want to eradicate poverty from Wayne County. And she says, good, you do that. Now she walked the door. So, you know, I think, so what have we been doing for the last 10 years? It's that. We have not succeeded, you know, we aren't done, but how do we eradicate poverty, right? You know, it's all around us. And I believe poverty is an affront to the Creator, right? Because it means we haven't done what we were called to do. If we were doing what we'd be doing, we wouldn't have it. And so, so a lot of that looks like problem solving, right? And everybody has a place to play in that narrative, whether it's job creation or improving healthcare, improving education, improving our safety net for the community. And the journey we've been on is amazing. It started with COVID, really. 2020, we're sitting there, well, little backside narrative. The fall of 2019, we're walking down the middle of that, middle of the village there with my mom. Mom looks over at the little chapel and says, we need to be praying for Appalachia in there. Okay, you know, you say it, we'll do it. And so we had our first prayer service for Appalachia, which we have done for the last 5 years, every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Sometimes 5 people show up, sometimes 25, whatever. 8 a.m., always praying for Appalachia in that little church. So we started that exactly 5 years ago. First Friday in January of 2020, having no clue what was about to happen in March of 2020, right? The whole world shut down. But people kept showing up. You know, we sat 6 feet apart from each other, don't turn us in, but people showed up. And so when everything shut down in March 20, and the other thing is people started coming from all over this world. A little Huntington, West Virginia. I don't know if you've met them yet, but we have an incredible influx of people who have been arriving in the last 5 years from Australia, South Africa, Canada, United Kingdom. Very interesting. They're all coming here. You meet somebody international and they've moved here in the last couple of years, just ask them their story. It's fascinating. I just met a guy who moved here from Alberta, Canada. I think to West Virginia. Something's happening here. And so there was a guy from Australia. He had moved here, his whole family, they moved him here. He was going to start a company to help young men out of addiction recovery with a construction company. So once they graduated from a program, he had done something similar back in Australia, and he felt called to come here and to help out with that. And he got his business license on March 15th of 2020. He's all excited. He's got jobs lined up. He's got men who are ready to grab. Poof, all gone the following week. And so he's out there at the farm. We're sitting on the rocking chair, 6 feet apart. And he said, "What am I going to do?" I was like, "Want to build a treehouse?" So if you've been out there and you put the kids on that treehouse trek, that was built during COVID. And we didn't have anything else to do. So yeah, the treehouse trek and the nature center. The other thing that happened during that time, my oldest daughter, graduated from Audy University, which has one of only 5 zoo and conservation science programs in the country, in connection with the Columbus Zoo. So honestly, as a dad, I thought I'd lost her, right? I thought, when she went, her heart's desire was to be, in charge of the San Diego Zoo or Zoo Alaska or something. And midway through her work there at the Columbus Zoo, she says, "Dad, I've worked with everything from kangaroos and lions and elephants, but my heart's with possums and foxes and creatures from Appalachia." And she says, because for years we have here at the farm, we've celebrated the Appalachian people, and they are amazing. They're resilient and they're undervalued. But that's true for the flora and fauna of Appalachia as well. Dad, did you know that West Virginia has more species of salamanders than anywhere in the world? No, I did not know that, but yes, that became a true statement. Dad, did you know that the diversity of the hardwoods in West Virginia is more diverse than pretty much anywhere else in the world? No, I didn't know that. And she said, "See, our flora and fauna have chosen to live here too. And nobody's told their story either. They're undervalued. And they have a story to tell." So that's why we built the nature center. And when you go up into that treehouse, it's all about the forest and the birds and all that kind of thing. Well, that led to, the summer, so in August of 2020, I get a phone call. We wanted to expand. As you remember, back during that time, everything was about outside. You need to be outside. So the treehouse trek was nice, but how do we get? And then the concept became, we've been telling everybody about that our ancestors overcame challenges in these Appalachian mountains, but nobody ever goes in them anymore, right? I mean, we go by them, but we don't go in them. So we've tried to think of ways to get people into the mountains, literally. So we were looking for a challenge course, zip lines, things to get people actually up into the forest. I get a call in August of 2020 saying, this gentleman's name in New Hampshire, "Heard you were looking for an adventure course." Yes, sir. He's like, "I got one for free. Come and get it." Huh? Yeah. So myself and a friend drove up to New Hampshire in the middle of COVID, the part where you couldn't even stop in New York. Remember New York State? You couldn't even get off the road. You go, man. So that was crazy. He had sold had a baby, got a job with a construction company, and he sold his $750,000 adventure course to a camp that went belly up during COVID. So he had already given up the lease, and it had to be off the property by October 1st. So anyway, so that's why Talitha Coon and Wilder Zip and Climb and the Red Tail Racer zip lines exist, is because of that. So that's been fun. And so what that led to is amazing young people. Wow. Because you got to have young people to run your adventure park, right? And another false narrative is that our young people are lazy and not intelligent or not interested. I'm telling you, we've had 17 kids, 21, 22, 23, 24, so past 4 years, I'd hire every one of them, right? Amazing. And an adventure course is a great way because their job is to help you face your fear, right? Because everybody's afraid of heights. It just depends on how high, right? You know, some people are 2 feet off the ground, some people are astronauts, but there is a natural fear of height. And so their professionalism and willingness to help you face your fears is really a great skill that'll serve them all well. And so what happened is, well, these are great kids. Most of them attend this wonderful university, right? And so, right, they're meant to go on and become all that they were created to be. But as we've got them more and more, we realize some people would love this to be their job, right? They are just in it. In fact, the guy that now leads our adventure program is graduated from here, and he was a math teacher at Cabell Midland, and he was one of our summer facilitators as a summer job as a teacher. And he said, "Can I do this full time? I love this," right? And so he's been a real blessing. But that led to, well, daggone it, why are we losing? You know, at the end of October, we got to tell all those kids, hey, hope you come back in April, right? Because I don't know that anybody's going zip lining, you know, through November, December, January. So it's a seasonal kind of thing. We're like, well, how can we keep these people? For those who wanted to be a full-time job, how can we keep them? And so it's the snow park idea came as, well, how can we round out the season? And today, tomorrow we will pour the floor on a 28,000 square foot indoor snow park. It is super cool. It is going to, so we're also going to be able to combine it with an outdoor 4-season slope. So it'll be the nation's first outdoor snow park in the country. There is an indoor tubing park at Pigeon Forge using similar technology. There is an outdoor skiing facility at Liberty University. And then there's an indoor skiing facility using traditional technology up in New York. That's it. And then there's Mount Hood, who does it naturally all year. So super cool. Again, people coming from all over the world to help us pull it off. We had a family move here from South Africa, because doesn't everybody go to South Africa for snow? Yeah. But that's part of the God journey there. Was introduced to a gentleman who's been doing this indoor snow park for 15 years in the Cape Town Mall. At Christmas time, behind Santa Claus in the Cape Town Mall, you can go tubing and ice skating. So I was introduced to him, went down to visit him to see how that works, and then kind of just backed up his supply chain to figure out how this works. And so 2 years ago, last year, if anybody came to Christmas Village in 2023, if you saw the little tubing run, anybody see the little tubing run back in 2023? Well, that was the proof of concept. We bought one of these machines. These machines make snow regardless of temperature. And they've been in Europe and China for 10, 15 years. And it's interesting, just as an aside, well, what in the world's wrong with America? Why haven't we done? It's interesting because I'm now talking to all these different companies, what they all did is they looked at America and went, yeah, this is the big money, right? And so they went to Vail, big dog, showing them their product. They're like, oh, I don't need that. Why would I buy that? They've got snow. Anybody's been to Vail, they don't need snow. Actually, Vail did buy one of these machines, but it sits behind the village there. And so when the village doesn't look like Switzerland, they'll turn this on. So it's a good reminder to all of us, sometimes our assumption in who is the right audience isn't necessarily, the big dog. They totally overlook the East Coast, who is struggling with, current circumstances to the contrary. Last year, Winter Place never even opened all of its trails ever, all year. So interesting. But so level one, we're seeking grants so we can teach all of our middle schoolers to ski, just as a part of helping them with that, not only just physical education, but also the science behind winter. We're going to have 900 solar panels on top of this building, so we're going to use the sun to make snow. The system collects all, it's just snow, so it melts, but it collects all of the water, it recyculates. They're estimating about 95% of it will end up right back in the machine, making more snow. It's just water. When we did the trial run at Christmas Village, it's just a garden hose. It's amazing. It's amazing. It is so much fun. So teaching kids to ski, we're working on grants to cover all of our local school children as part of that program. And then just general tourism, we want to be a shot in the arm for creating something that doesn't exist. So hopefully give us a shot in the arm of getting people to visit our town and spending other people's money. Right now, most of our economy is me paying you and you paying me, and that's trading money, and that pays the bills, but it doesn't really create wealth for people. And so getting other people's money here, that's a good thing about tourism. But then the next level is, we've had to go all over the world for these products because America makes nothing in the ski industry. Shocking, actually. So part of what we're in each one of these vendor contracts, our focus is to try to, before we sign the dotted line, if we can convince them to make their product over here, or at least West Virginia. So far, we have an agreement with the dry slope technology. They're working with Marshall's flexible manufacturing facility. They've got us hooked up with a company out of Point Pleasant called PTI. So that's in the works. The gentleman that makes the snow machine, it wants to make it here, but he's waiting to see what our new tariff laws will be before he chooses what comes over and how all that works. So yeah, lots of good stuff coming. Just pray for that. Lots of good opportunities to come out of that. And so it's 11:30, so I'll open it up for questions. But just in closing, we've talked a lot about education, and I always like to mention this story because we need to be careful how we define educated, even as we stand here in a lifelong learner class on a major university in our country. And obviously, do not hear me wrong, education is extremely important. And education is a pathway forward to problem solving. But sometimes we commit a suicide. Don't look it up, I just made it up. Right? So, and I'll give you an example. When I was 14, Dad sent me up to help the gentleman up top, one of the great grandchildren of the original dairy farmers, still doing everything the way they did it, right? Even though it was 1987, right? 85, 19. And, I'm typical 14. Oh, man. The gentleman was late 70s. And it was just me and him baling hay. Has anybody baled hay? That's like the hardest work ever. It is never less than 95 degrees when you bale hay for some reason. I don't know how that works, but it's always blistering hot. Anyway. And so when you're baling hay in this method, so it's already been baled, so you have to pick up the bale and you throw it in the back of the truck or the wagon. This was a truck. And so this person picking up a bale, which is between 30 and 50 pounds, and throwing it up to somebody who catches it and sorts it. 14-year-old boy, 78-year-old man, I was up in the truck. he was stronger than me. He's also smarter than me, right? Now, the world would have deemed him uneducated. He signed his name with an X, and he only went to 4th grade in that little one-room schoolhouse that you see when you pull into the farm there. That was the Ratcliffe School. That's where they all went to school. But, you know, had to go to work. So he only got to 4th grade X. The world would have deemed him as, and now, you know, the world would deem me educated, right? I've got all these little letters after my name and all that kind of thing. But in the world in which he lived, that gentleman was far more educated than me. He knew where all his food came from because he grew it. He knew how to repair every machine on his property. I couldn't repair my car if the world depended on it. Yet I'm educated, right? He knew which tree was better for a fence post versus a table leg. Just, it's important that we recognize the genius in all the Hollers. Thank you. All right. Questions, Jenny, that you all have? Good. Oh,
The
sorry.
reason you bailed on a hot day,
Yes.
you didn't want any moisture in there.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. You open that bale up and it's all moldy, and the horse won't. Yeah, the cow will still eat it, but the horse will.
Well, I have one. I've heard for several years about the possibility of a new connector road. I don't know, was it coming over German Ridge or? I don't know.
No. Well, yeah. Good point. Good lesson in. Well, so yes. So they have designed it twice. The first company that designed it fell out of favor of the then governor, so they redesigned it again because they didn't want anything with that fella's name on it. So, so it got redesigned, and it is slated for 2026. But you and I both know, you knowing the legislature, when the current sitting person tells you that something's going to happen in the next administration, that means they're putting it off on somebody else's plate. Good luck to you. But anyway, so the good news is we know where it goes, right? It's already been professionally designed twice. So we'll see. We keep those options open.
What connector?
It would be from 152 over to the farm, which is less than a mile. I mean, if you're standing at that barn and you look at Harvey Road, so your back is to the barn and your face is to Harvey Road, like 152 is just on the other. You know where the agricultural building is there, just past, like where you turn to the Woodlands and that's Speedway. There's a nice Department of Agricultural building. That is like right on the other side of that hill from the barn. So the access road is less than 5.
Do you all own the property on the
Yes,
hill?
yes,
Oh,
yes.
that's
It's
great.
really easy. Just costs money. It's really easy.
Is
Yeah.
that across the street from the farm itself?
Well, it doesn't exist currently.
If
but
it did.
It
it'd be
did,
across
yeah.
the
It would.
street, as you turn into Heritage.
Actually, it's really cool. It would actually come in right across from Mom's house,
Oh,
which would be super
Oh,
cool
okay.
because then you could tell the narrative I just told you, right? You know, currently you come from Harvey Road and you wonder, what in the heck am I doing? And are we lost? And you come to a stone gate, you pull in, you're like, well, it's some random buildings. What is this? I think, you know, someday having that as your interest and you start with the narrative of dairy farms, the barn, you know, and then you allow that transition of thought into from yesterday to today. You know, I think that's someday. That's the narrative that I think we'll be able to share. Yes, ma'am.
Where is the ski facility going?
So, if any of you've been up on the hill next to the adventure park, so Talitha Coombe, it is adjacent to that. So the village is down here. The adventure park is up here. The next hill up is the next plateau up is the snow park, and then the snow park is between the adventure park and the mountain bike park. So hopefully before May, we are working on a shuttle road so you can ride a shuttle that will take you from the history park to the adventure park to the snow park, hopefully to someday to the wildlife park, the bike park, all that kind of thing.
So I think we're gonna need a trip here.
I think so.
Yeah, that would be fun. Absolutely. Yes.
How much of a drop with the ski?
Good question. So phase one is focused on teaching people to ski, primarily school kids, and then allowing people who do know to hone their skills, right? So with so the beginner slope is about 500 feet long, and the intermediate and advanced slope is about 500 feet long, with the ability to put a terrain park on there. So they aren't extremely long, but that's by design. That's why this product works in this kind of environment. Because if you're learning, you need repetition. It is wonderful to go to Cup Run and ski for a mile, but that's not a great way to learn. That's why Cup Run is an advanced slope, right? So for the beginner, you need really 250 feet just over and over again. So that's what that's designed to do. And
It
then,
might work for old people too.
and then for those people who
Is that like the bunny slopes?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then for those people who are working on their skills, like probably a lot of the college age kids who are working the terrain park stuff, so they actually get more repetition out of just being able to do that trick or tricks over and over, rather than at a traditional resort having to go all the way to the top of the mountain, ski down, and then for that one trick. So that's phase one, is the product for that. And they'll be able to do that indoor and outdoor. Now, the indoor facility, that product there is only 150 feet long, again, because that's the true beginning of where you learn. It goes basically from flat, so that's where you just learn to stand in your boots and how all this feels. Then it goes 4%, then 8%, then 16. So when we're not teaching them to ski, we can convert that into tubing runs or a terrain park, that kind of thing. So we're hoping once we're get it all up that Marshall may add us to part of their rec package. If anybody has that authority, let me know, because that would be wonderful, because then we would maybe change the motif on Saturday night, and so they don't have to compete against little Susie's birthday party, and we can we can allow that to be a fun outlet for the university students. Yes, ma'am. Let me get her and then we'll come back.
We challenged ourselves to do the treehouse track.
Oh, good.
We loved it.
Fun.
Of course, the little ones were running way past me, because I was like holding on to dear life, because I am afraid of heights.
Right.
And so my next challenge, I really want to try her zip line.
Oh, wow.
So I do, and but
So the current record is 91 years old. So-
do you have hiking trips? Because we really enjoy hiking, and where are they located?
So we have 10 miles of the mountain bike trails, right? And so Rebecca, my daughter, is actually working on, with RL, who's the adventure park director, coming up with a schedule, because those trails are fantastic for hiking, right? You're going, again, to my point earlier, that's how to see the forest, is through these different adventure products. But not everybody wants to get on a bike and go down. So that will happen. You'll start seeing some announcements probably about April of when you can bike on it and when you can hike on it, because we just don't want you on there at the same time, because it's just insane.
No.
And if you've ever experienced that at a state park, it's what are you doing here? What are you doing here? But yeah, so we'll segment the day, so because they're just wonderful, because especially if anybody's a birder, oh my goodness, it's a cacophony up in there. It's crazy.
Yeah, the wildlife here is wonderful, the trees, everything.
Yeah.
And we've been living here 12 years. Love it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Well, so to your point about the trails, that is on the list of, they exist. They've just been used by the bike. So we're gonna segment that off and say, won't you guys come at noon? We'll do hiking from 8 to noon, or
Not too early.
Yeah.
Let's get up early.
And watch, keep tabs on the Facebook, because Rebecca will start doing those birding walks and things of that nature. Yes.
Well, so are you still privately owned, or, I mean, what is your organizational?
So we are a 501c3,
Okay.
but it's called the Heritage Farm Foundation. So it's a charitable, lots of faces that you would probably recognize on the board of good folks from days go by.
Well, it seems like it would take so many different types of people and thinking to do all of this. I guess you have a board and then committees and things.
Come join us. Come join the fun. Yeah, it's like we said earlier, it's about people, right? Stuff's nice, but people make the difference. And yeah, if you're looking for a place to plug into, we'd love to have you. There's all kinds of opportunities from hosting a museum to working in our makerspace. You may not have made it all the way back there, but at the end of the village is what we call makerspace, and it's about a 3,000 square foot facility that it's so cool. It has the hardwood floors of the original St. Mary's School of Nursing Gymnasium. Right when they tore that down, Dad grabbed it, and one fella's winter project was pulling all the nails out. But anyway, so the hardwood floors from the St. Mary's School of Nursing is the floor of the makerspace, and the wall are those murals from Tascali's. You remember those? That decades of the 40s, 50s, 60s, all that, the table mats, everything's in there. So there's something of every day of history from 1940 on.
Did you cut the drywall to get the mural?
It was canvas.
Canvas.
It was
Oh,
canvas, so they just
wow.
roll it right up. And it's awesome.
Wow.
Tim Decker, if anybody knows Tim, is who the artist is. And but the space is for creativity, right? So the kids can come in there, they can make crafts, they can play with Legos, they can play with robotics, they can play with magnets, it's just a room for creativity. And as you probably know, a room with creativity needs a lot of adult eyes. And so if that sounds interesting to you, that room is always in need of eyes, hands, and laps.
It's never here.
Yeah.
Something about a story you're gonna tell about Hatfields and McCoys.
Yeah. So we get a lot of motor coaches that, I mean, that is the only narrative that made it out of the mountains, right? And what's interesting about that is the exact same stuff was happening out west. And it got romanticized. And we got demonized for it, right? And so it makes you wonder, what's the narrative, right? Who's telling the story and why? Well, they wanted us out of the mountains, right? Because there was gold there, black gold. But we don't really get into that. What we do for the motor coaches, because it is fun. I mean, it's fun, and so you don't want to pop a balloon on that. And they're getting ready to head south, so we want to be a good welcoming mat for Mingo County and Eastern Kentucky. But what we do, because they filmed the Hatfield McCoy documentary, the History Channel filmed that at the farm. So if you go back to that frontier cabin, that was Randall McCoy's cabin in the Hatfield McCoy documentary. What we do is, yes, it's funny to talk about girls and pigs and, shooting each other. But what we ask is, could you have been a Hatfield? Could you have been a McCoy? Back to our earlier comment. Could you have built your own home, grown your own food, made your own clothing, and protected your family against everything that came? Quickly we quit laughing at these people and realized this was real life, right? This was not the way we live today. And that's a narrative that we also go through, is judging yesterday by today's standards is just wrong. It's unfair. You cannot do that and properly tell the story It's amazing how often when we're given these these tours, we're almost out of time, but I'll give you an example, and it breaks my heart, and it happens almost every time. But now I anticipate it because I'm ready. So if you've been in the Transportation Museum, there's a big yellow truck in the back right-hand corner, a Denby. A local gentleman had turned it into a produce truck that you may remember seeing at Ritter Park back in the day. But the Denby was World War I's Army transport vehicle. So what I always just say is, so see if you can find where the gas tank is. And it's this big vehicle. Well, the gas tank is right here in front of the steering wheel. Like where we have airbags was the gas tank. In your Army transport vehicle, people shooting at you, and you got a gas tank in your face. And the number one response from a school child is, man, they were stupid. Right. We judged yesterday by today's standards. It's not fair. They weren't stupid. Could any of us invented that truck? Not a chance. At least speaking for myself. The fuel pump hadn't been invented yet, right? They're just looking how to get, the only friend they had was gravity. So they were just trying to find a close proximity higher up to get that fuel down into this engine. That's it. But that's our assume-side. We assume just because you don't do something like I do, and I'm sitting on the shoulders of all of your, hard work, we're so quick to say, man, they were stupid. And it's just, so that's one of the narratives that happens over and over throughout as you look at the way we did things. We've been the beneficiaries of a lot of people's trial and errors that we didn't have to make. There was somebody else that had a question. Yes, ma'am.
No, I was just laughing what you said because my granddaughter, who is 14, they were showing her house, beautiful house, that was made probably in the 1990 or something like that. Oh, she said, that's so last century.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts. Yeah.
And we, because I guess that we are all more or less the same age group,
Yeah.
we have gone through last century and so many changes. And our grandparents, I hear about them and I say, when you talk about that, I'm thinking of my grandparents coming from Italy to America when they were sharing one house, 3 generations. It's unbelievable. And it's so 2 last centuries.
Yeah. Which turn of the century are
Which
you
one?
speaking?
Yeah.
Exactly.
My daughter, who was when my wife and I are talking about high school or college or whatever, and she's like, Dad, that was the 1900s.
Yes, yes.
Now when she says that, I'm picturing Little House on the Prairie.
Right, right.
But she's right. Yeah.
Any more questions or comments or anything?
Yes, sir.
This is kind of off the subject of what we talked about, but you alluded to how many international people we have coming to
Yeah.
Huntington.
Yeah.
And I have another friend who kind of observed that, and I wasn't even aware of it. He talked about it, and is that by design or why is that happening? Do you know?
I don't think it's just like everything else. My example is one time we went out to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I don't know if anybody's been out there, the Grand Tetons. I had to pull over. It was so gorgeous, right? I'd never seen anything like it. A field of buffalo, who are bison, were grazing in green grass. There's a crystal blue Snake River going, and there's a snow-capped mountain. I've never seen anything like it. It was breathtaking. I had to pull over. And then I looked to my left. Everybody's going 70 miles per hour to Walmart. They live there. They see it every day. They just don't behold the beauty, right? I only noticed it because it was new to me. And I think that's what happens to us. I am just shocked. So I've hosted people at the farm in the last 2 years from Cape Town, South Africa. Gorgeous. If you ever get a chance to go, it's amazing. Melbourne, Australia, probably one of the most beautiful places in the world. Milan, Italy. London, England. I mean, all these people. Shanghai, China. All of them want to come and move here. So this is the most beautiful place I've ever been. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
We don't see it.
Yeah, right.
I took a guy, so Harry he's the gentleman who designs the snow machine. He lives in Xi'an, China. Town of 16 million people that probably most of us have never even heard of. 16 million people. He says, how many people lives in this town? I said, about 50,000. He's like, oh, I have more than that on my street. I'm driving him around the state, so we go up to Blackwater Falls and down Canaan Valley and the Greenbrier, and he would just say, what do you do with all this land? You're not growing anything. Where's all the people? And he's like, this is paradise. You truly are almost heaven, which, by the way, all we have to do is open up a pathway to China to fly here. It will be full, because the first song the Chinese learn is Country Roads.
Yeah.
Almost Heaven, West Virginia. All of the marketing has already been done. When I invited him, he said, sure, Mr. Audy, I'd love to come to Almost Heaven. It's amazing. So don't sell ourselves short. The world wants to come here. We just need to be ready. Thank you for your time.
Raina's always said it.
5 seconds. This is the biggest group we've had since COVID hit. I took over like 3 months before COVID, and this was the number of participants we had. Then COVID hit, and we went to Zoom. And I'm thankful for the ones on Zoom this morning, don't get me wrong. I'm overwhelmed. We have added 21 new people. So what, if you could just quickly, can we just go around the room and just introduce yourself? So we kind of put a name with the face, and for me too, because I've got people who joined, just sent me the form in and joined. So I'm Elizabeth, I'm your leader, I'm your, over this program, and it's a blessing to lead this program with all these great people. So I'll start with Mr. Rife. Right?
I'm John Rife.
I'm Delberta Rife.
Sarah Millette.
Steve McDaniel.
Laura McDaniel,
Jackie Hammond.
Joe Giss, Donna Wilson, and I lived outside the U.S. for 37 years, and I came back here.
Oh, where'd you live?
Germany, Azores, Japan, and
But you came back home, right?
yeah. After living in Japan.
Wow. Roberta Ferguson.
Pat Lingenfelter.
Chris King,
Bill Wilson, Mike Ballard,
Ellie Ballard.
Bob Cobb,
Mark McOwen.
Mary McGowan.
Molly McOwen,
Ray Crabtree.
Krista
Nancy Strohs,
Christina Salim.
Susan Wheatley,
Tom Wheeler.
And thank you all so
It's
much.
so good.
I know a lot of you, but there's a few I have not met Mrs. Celine yet, so thank you, Christina, thank you.
Christina Salim. I'm from Argentina originally,
Okay.
but I've been here 52 years, 47 in time.
Well, thank you all for being here, and this is your program. And if you have any ideas, and I'm gonna ask Audy, you do have a lot of volunteer opportunities. Yes.
Love to.
And I had someone from the group ask me about, was it you, volunteer opportunities? I thought someone from the group. But we need to plan a trip to Heritage.
Yeah, and if you'll, on your email list, feel free to, I'll send you, give my email.
Yes.
And if that way, if you do have an interest, now's a great time, because we don't really open up for school tours until April. So now would be a good time. If you're interested, we can go at our own pace to help get you up to speed at your comfort level, to help out with tours or animals or whatever your interest is, before the kids show up.
And when would be a good month to come visit Heritage Farm to get a tour.
Well, I think, do you always meet on Tuesdays or?
No, we can, we always have a Tuesday talk, typically the second Tuesday of the month, but we have other times that we meet. We're not just wed to Tuesdays.
So, May through October, we're open to the public, Thursday, Fridays and Saturdays. And so those would be super easy to do because everything's open and you could go at it your own
Yes.
pace. And we could set up a time maybe to meet and
Yes.
talk at either the middle or the end of the day. But
Okay.
I think that way they could experience everything themselves.
Yes.
And then maybe meet at the end to answer any questions.
Elizabeth, do you have any word about what the possibility is for February?
I do. I'll send that out.
Okay,
I just don't have it. I do and I don't. I do.
okay.
I'm working.
I didn't mean to.
It's a secret.
It's a secret.
Well, I noticed that a lot of our newer folks are,
Yes, I
have been interested in
everything planned.
having a kind of a projection,
I
but
have it planned.
I think you might, it is, and I've been here since the beginning of it, it's just, it has to kind of, what I'm trying to say is, you just have to build on it in terms of getting.
No, I'm scheduled through April. I sent that out a while ago, but I just added April. So I'll update everyone. Yes. It's nice to look ahead to know what's coming up. But my biggest thing has been location. And this has worked out so well. We typically, for the newer people, we would meet across the street in the lobby of the Performing Arts because parking, I always try to find parking for you guys, easy access. And they're in the process of having all the glass in the buildings replaced. Wow. So I don't think I'm gonna get that space this semester. So you have to drop back and punt. So, actually, you were across the way. We thought it was a different meeting, you did. But that room wasn't big enough this morning, so this really worked out well. Worked out very well. So thank you all so much for coming in. All our new members. Thank you for joining and being with us. And Audy, thank you. That was.
You might be thinking, I forgot about my prop, but we can do that next time.
Which, was that the toaster?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah.